the best interest at heart.
Thank you very much. In the interest of time, I'd like to take basically any other hand. Please go ahead, my brother.
My name is Jimmy Makosha from Central TV. The questions I have, the first one to the SG. SG, with the current situation that is happening in the country, do you think ANC stands a chance to win that province on this coming elections based on what is happening right now? The second question becomes, is it not late for the ANC when we have a month to go to the national elections to be acting on the issue of MK today? The third question would be, ANC has not yet fired the former president, only suspended him. When will the NEC take a resolute and deal with this matter at this stage with the pace that the MK is going with? MK has been making rounds on social media saying if it's not given an opportunity to participate in the coming elections, there will be bloodshed. Is ANC ready for that at this juncture? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we're going to turn to those of the only hands that I've seen. I will turn to the SG.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the questions. There's been an argument in court about issues of time, and I wish to leave it there. The characterization and apportion blame and singling out an individual is just a question of irritation. That must be dealt with as such, because that matter is being tested in court in relation to that question. When you deal with issues in office and how you challenge political parties in the context of the electoral system and the IEC, is really a matter of efficiency from both sides. Here in this case, we are arguing against the IEC together with Jacob Zuma's party, which defend them stealing the logo and at the same time the symbol of the ANC, which is well known. So, in simpler terms, we will not be here if Zuma named his party Jacob Zuma Msholozi party. We wouldn't be here. We'll just accept that he has left. If Zuma has got credibility on his own, why is he not standing on his own? Why does he take symbols of the ANC? If he's got credibility and standing in society, and he believes in his moral standing in South Africa, why is he not forming a party outright and taking symbols of the ANC? The reason is that he cannot. He cannot. He's got to take part of what belongs to the ANC, which is what the people follow of South Africa, and it goes with him. And that is why he will defend using Umkhonto weSizwe historical role in the struggle for liberation. He will use that to defend himself and say we will win because now Umkhonto weSizwe history and role in the struggle belong to Zuma. No, it doesn't. It belongs to the people of this country led by the liberation movement called the African National Congress. The graves of Nelson Mandela, attending wherever they are in their graves for the fact that Umkhonto weSizwe has now been apportioned in terms of its history to an individual who on his own basis has not put up a political and ideological posture as to why does he form a political party and why does a party in his name arise in the broader political space. He's trying to argue that in a way, but at the end of the day, he does not sustain it by standing on his own by saying, I'm forming a party, and that's it. Malema went to form a party called EFF in his own name and right and fought for it. Why is Zuma afraid to form his own and say that I'm forming a party to fight for land, and he steals the ANC symbols? We will not be here today, and probably you are right, wasting our time. It is a waste of time, indeed, precisely because waste of time and resources fighting over a matter that belongs to our party, unfortunately, not to other parties, but to the African National Congress in history. And because Umkhonto Wesizwe, in terms of its history, is not far away from the African National Congress. Many other things that have been raised on the matter of time have been argued in court, and we leave it there. We leave those issues there. And court will pass judgment on those particular issues, and we have argued them with the IEC, and that is why we are at the Electoral Court, and our lawyers have argued that matter quite diligently and professionally, like we said. So we will not be diverted by the issue of what it calls to an individual in relation to follow up on matters, because at the end of the day, it will end up being a case of defense of an individual, whereas it is not. The case has been argued, and what we have done as an organization to defend the right to the symbol of Umkhonto Wesizwe. Violence, are we concerned about that? We have characterized teapot parties that resort to violence and intimidation, and mobilizing people on the basis of threats and fears, rhetoric. If you believe in your ideas, there's no need to threaten democracy, and democracy must defend itself. And all of those who are peace-loving, democratic, and Democrats in our country and believe in our constitutionalism must abhor such actions. Nobody else has got the right to threaten violence as a means to achieve their goals in a democratic state. And the democratic state must defend all its citizens, such that activities we come to see by July riots never repeat themselves again in our country. Nobody can say, if things don't go my way in a constitutional court, and if my leader is not registered by the IEC, there will be violence. We can all resort to that if we did not have a state. We are not stateless. And South Africa is a democratic state, not a banana republic. It's neither a failed state. Our democracy works, as it has been proven over the past 30 years. We coexist even with people who have broke away from the ANC, and we did nothing to them. We contested them through the polls. The same we will do with Jacob Zuma. Win or lose in the Electoral Court, we'll contest him on the ground. We are not going to call members of the ANC to be violent and fight erstwhile ANC members on the ground. We will accept the outcome of the court. We have made our case, but we'll continue to challenge the trademark of the ANC, which is what we are doing next week. If they lose, good for them. But we have taken a political decision to challenge the existence of MK because we believe that how it was registered through the IEC, it is a matter that we believe needed to be challenged, and we have challenged that and argued that particular case in court. We don't think that it has followed all the necessary prescripts, and this was just a fly-by-night arrangement. Quick. It's registered and using technical issues, which unfortunately we've got to argue in court, which we have done so. That why we feel that things were not so much transparent in terms of dealing with this particular case. So we have argued those matters, and the judgment has been reserved, and then we'll wait for that. So we are not deterred. We're not going to win an election anyhow, either than campaigning as we do right now on the ground in terms of convincing people to vote for the ANC. If we don't convince people to vote for the ANC and why, they will walk away from us and all of that. And we don't believe that others do have, but that will be tested on the ground. Even that convincing and asking people to vote for us, we have never taken it for granted as a given. We have taken it as something that we need to work on and nudge all the time throughout the length and breadth of South Africa. There is no change even in this election, and that is exactly what we are doing. Zuma is not a member of the ANC. He's been suspended and charged. The day of his dismissal and whether he will be dismissed and all of that, it is a matter that will be determined by ANC committees, the disciplinary committee, as the time goes on. All I can tell you, he has not responded to any of the things that have been sent to him, and that he has just gone the way he has gone. He started by supporting MK, now he's a leader on the 16th. So when he started, he said, I'm supporting them, I'm going to vote for them, not the ANC. He was not a leader. Now he's a leader of MK. He's number one in their list. At least that one that is leaked to have seen. So we don't know the future with regard to that. But he didn't start as a leader. So it tells you the modus operandi of the party itself, that the modus operandi of the party has actually been a clandestine operation, which in itself has worked with broader forces in the country, which it has claimed that is going to build a front of black political parties, if not a melting pot. And Jacob Zuma has now become a figurehead of that front, which we characterize as counter-revolution in political terms, because it is firmly against what we stand for as the African National Congress. So he is not a member of the ANC. That decision has been taken. We have communicated that decision, and it is very clear to everybody. He has not contested it, and he has gone on to claim his space and to lead his political party in whatever way he does. So we don't have a problem with anyone breaking away, forming a political party, descending from the ANC. But if you use our symbols, it's like using ANC colors and go and register the IEC will challenge you. It's as simple as that. So it will raise a brouhaha in the public domain because it is Jacob Zuma, a person who was a deputy president of the ANC, a person who served as a president, not for 1 term, 2 terms, deputy president, not for 1 term, 2 terms, and who served at the highest echelons of the ANC, post and banning as a deputy secretary general of the ANC, who served as a national chairperson of the ANC for a very longest of time. So it will raise the biggest brouhaha about it. There's nothing you can do about it. The ANC therefore cannot take and fold and say that we're not going to challenge this matter because it's Jacob Zuma. Cannot be the case. And we have taken a political choice and made a political choice to challenge the matter in court. Does Business Week this divert ANC from electioneering? Not at all. It doesn't. As a matter of fact, it has energized our election campaign and our ground from the point of view of our membership. As you would have seen today, we had hundreds and hundreds of members of the ANC who came to say we are here to defend our party. Even here in this room, you've got commanders and commissars of Umkhonto weSizwe. We need to characterize the Jacob Zuma Umkhonto weSizwe. It's not really members of Umkhonto weSizwe who are disgruntled to have gone to the party. If you look today and you look at Dan Hatto, who's the longest serving MK commander, who are still in the ANC. Of course, you've got those splinters, Des Van Rooyen, and all of that, who have gone that other side, and so on. But a lot of MK members are here. We know that our soldiers and former war veterans have got issues in terms of their welfare. We disaggregate those issues from this MK opportunity, because you need to understand it as such. Zuma was a president. He didn't resolve soldiers' issues entirely. We are still dealing with that. when he left. We've got the War Veterans Department, which is dealing with these matters, and we're attending to them. And we don't apportion that failure to him as a person. We look at ourselves in the mirror too, that we need to resolve issues of war veterans. And we cannot then globally say MK party of Jacob Zuma, which has been formed out of opportunism and stealing the ANC asset like that, it's a problem of MK. No. We've got soldiers here. We've got MK combatants who are still with us, and they do have grievances. They do have issues, which as the ANC this week and even next week, we are resolving all of those particular matters, including their recognition as a structure, including the issues that they are addressing on their own in relation to unity of Umkhonto weSizwe, but equally war veterans, not just ANC, but broadly speaking. Everyone who fought for liberation has got issues of social welfare in this country, are matters that government is attending to, and we ourselves as the ANC, we are working with our own MK soldiers to address those particular matters. Zuma will win the case. It's possible he can win the case, because winning the case really is not a moral issue. It's a question of who put the best argument forward and what is legally permissible. And that is the point. We believe, too, we stand the ground to win the case. We'll put a cogent case forward. He's got an advantage because IEC agrees with him in a particular way. But we have challenged even the IEC in that regard. And then the Electoral Court is no better platform than to look at the facts and at the same time make a judgment on the matter. So it doesn't end there. We will go on to claim our trademark and all of that, and that is what we'll do. So he wins the case for who? Will he go to sleep well, that he won the case for stealing an asset of the ANC, and that he has plunged the revolution in a crisis or in a precarious position? That's him at the age of 80. Will he go to sleep well, that he's doing something for the revolution? He's deepening it, he's doing everything that is good. I wouldn't be proud of that, because I would only be proud if you don't believe in the ANC currently in terms of its leadership. You break away. You don't steal because you want to confuse people, and at the same time they must vote for you by default. We've got political parties in this country who are on the ballot who benefit out of ANC colors. There's nothing we can do about it because they are recognized. And then they don't campaign, they don't have manifestos, but every time we look at the scoreboard after the elections, they are there. 2 seats, 3 seats, 1 seat at local government. That's what we see. So we will not step back on things that will impugn and, have an impact on our image in terms of contest of elections. Like we said, we are claiming what is rightfully ours. We have not made Jacob Zuma our manifesto. We've got a manifesto. We don't talk about, he talk about us every day. Which manifesto has he put across? And have he addressed himself to the people? That shows you the crisis of the mob and opportunism. There's nothing there. And you will never find anything. If there's anything that will come out of that particular Zuma party, it's just going to be a concoction, which is basically a critique of what they believe should happen in the ANC. So we're still there. We're still radical in terms of economy and doing all the things. The ANC on the today is standing in the international front in defense of political positions that nobody else in history has ever. We live up to our phobias in terms of what we defend going forward. And that is our moral high ground that we occupy. SABC, the selfishness of individual is not determined as an act of one single activity. It is determined by history and the behavior of individuals in terms of their conduct over a period of time. That is why they say heroes can become villains in the history of struggle. And this could be one example. So it's a dialectical thing, you know, that what you perceive to be revolutionary can only be praised once it is no more, because you'll say that one is tried and tested, because he's deep 6 feet underground, he has never sold out. But what history have told us in the South African struggle and revolution is that people you perceive to be revolutionaries, as long as they are alive, can disappoint you and basically do things that are opposite. Jacob Zuma of today and Jacob Zuma of 10 years ago, and go into the clips and the things that he would have said, what will you say about it? When people in the ANC didn't want him as a president, they didn't like him as a president, they opposed him as a sitting president in government and all of that, he himself then began to characterize those in the ANC who are doing those things as not revolutionaries and apolitical. And today it's him who's leading from the front and doing exactly the opposite of what he warned us about. So political education and consciousness, when it leaves you, doesn't say goodbye. It just goes. It just goes. It doesn't care you are 80 years or how old you are, but it just goes. And this could be one example of what we are dealing with here today. And then, so the selfishness come to be seen for what it is today. That you can abandon everything and history and your contribution to the struggle and then stand against. So what tools do you apply to come to a conclusion that you and your friends in South Africa, you will gather enough vote to topple the ANC? And at the same time, it will put you in the higher pedestal in terms of the revolutionary agenda, which we don't know what is it, that revolutionary agenda. Because people's association with Zuma is really not on the basis of principles. It's just based on love. You know, it's like when you go to church of Bushiri and then you say, I receive, you know, and then you receive. And even here, I just love Baba. Nama I cried when he was arrested. I saw tears on my cheeks because I couldn't see a revolutionary like him going to jail in a democratic dispensation. It comes with me and the feeling of love from a young activist of the ANC who have also had a taste, not as him, a taste of what it means to fight for freedom and to see one of our own for different reasons. But it had to happen because it is a rule of law. Sometimes I wouldn't want to see him, Du wouldn't want to see me or Mahlengi. But he's going down the drain and then he's experiencing these things. Sometimes they've got to happen because this is the path we have chosen. And what is that path? It's the path of the rule of law. A functioning rule of law, fighting corruption and all these things, it means you deal even with those that you love. Go and learn from China. They too went through what we went through. But for them to deal with corruption in China, they had to deal with the best of the best, not the lizards, but the crocodiles. So these are the well-known people in China who went to the gallows for being corrupt leaders. I suppose they've got a track record in the struggle. One day something happens to me or it happens to somebody, you can cry that we're together, but there's nothing you can do because we have chosen the path of the rule of law. We will never negotiate that path and seek to redefine it either than for it to be different. And that is why we are building state organs for that particular purpose, which were riddled and flattened. So in this particular instance, it's a question of love that people follow. Indeed, you know, and that is it, and so on. So I saw somebody were addressing there in Joburg this week, and then he comes and he grabs a mic, and then he says, "When's the news home?" And then, you know, they take a mic from him, but it's quite clear that the chap is overzealous, but it's not his at his best. But I look at him and then I realize that why would you come and cry for an older person, not for the current generation of leaders who are in the country at the present moment? And these are the questions that you need to ask yourself, because at the end of the day, the future is what we think of. And at that time, we were discussing issues of copyright that affected him. He came and broke down the meeting about something else, which his peers never gave him a chance. They just took the mic. And then he sat down and cooled down. Now, Central TV, do we stand a chance in KZN? Do we stand a chance in Mangaung, in Limpopo, anywhere else? We do stand a chance because we believe in our ability to mobilize against all odds. So that's what we're doing. And people follow the ANC every day. And then we get into their houses, we talk to them, we humble ourselves. And then they follow the ANC manifesto. It is the ANC manifesto that will answer that question on the 29th of May. And we know that victory that we have vowed to work for when we met in Bombela, that we will work for ANC victory, is what we're doing. It's not a given. So we can't answer that question like 1 + 1 is equals to 2. So it has got to be a mathematical answer that you've got to work for your victory on a daily basis. It's science. If people are sitting there, they've got all the things that the ANC have done, you don't convince them. You talk about one thing all the time and talk about issues that are in the periphery, and you don't talk about your manifesto. You are not campaigning, people will not follow you, and that is it. And all what we're doing here today is to explain the case of Jacob Zuma in relation to MK Party. You are asking Central TV, is it not late to challenge this? No, it's not late. For the mere fact that you will be on the ballot and then you are contesting as in terms of our symbol, you've got to be challenged in relation to that, and any party will do so. That is what is important we need to do. One thing that you need to understand, it is not late, because this thing started late last year, because we challenged this MK Party and we won, and that is why there was a big argument on the letter. And the process of the second process of the registration is not straightforward. It just happened and people said no, it was gazetted, and then if you didn't see stats current, and therefore you are late, and therefore this party legitimately has to stand. So they've been going back and forth, and we got the result because we challenged. We got the result, no, they cannot stand. And that is the letter that has been a bone of contention. So people who argue the issue of time, you must understand where we come from with this issue. Because we have not been sleeping on the job in terms of challenging MK Party and registration. But how it happened later was very dubious, so to say. But we are law-abiding. We don't want to cry foul over matters that we can argue in court. And we have done that. So like I said, we'll abide with the outcome of the court, but we will not leave it lying down. And that is what is important for us. So we have been dealing with this matter. And we knew at a given point what is it all about. We have not fired Zuma. We have not fired Zuma. Zuma is not a member of the ANC. He's been suspended. And you have asked that question elsewhere. I've answered it. He's suspended, subjected to the disciplinary process, and that is it. So he's not our member as we speak now. So the question of whether he's fired or not, really, it's immaterial. That matter will be processed by the structures concerned of the ANC. Lastly, Zuma's party threats. He will never, Zuma, come and correct those threats. If he believes in democracy and peace, he should call his members to order And that's what I was referring to when I talked about his political family and his backyard. You must call his backyard. There's no member of the ANC. We have signed an electoral code of conduct who can go out and threaten any political party, including Zuma's party. If it is recognized, registered, they have to contest. We've got to go to the ground and work. Zuma will never condemn. That is why the law must kick in. There must be no political understanding for anarchists in this country who deliberately go out of their way and threaten a democratic process. So the rule of law and the electoral code of conduct must kick in, and political parties must pay for the activities that are rogue of their members. Members have got the right. The Constitution guarantees that even the person you don't like as your opponent, even those that we know as we characterize them here in our statement, who they are, that we know where they get the resources from, our Constitution protects them in South Africa for them to stand. And that is the strongest part of our democracy that we celebrate. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, SG. With that responded to comprehensively, this now brings us to the end of the press briefing. Thank you very much, members of the media.